ESS contract, I think it's probably one of our newer contracts in terms of doing that with because it was last year when we brought them in, either the choice of ESS or staying in with the school district, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the newer ones in terms of contracts that we have with companies like that. But so as we move forward in our negotiating contracts, those are possibilities in terms of what we could look at in terms of with respect to terms of contracts.
Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you.
Mr. Dallas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to weigh in on the issue of the contractor. The fact that we pass on the guidance on the salaries is good in the sense that it keeps the delta between hopefully the delta between our employees and the contractor's employees from getting too steep or deep or different. And that sort of can hopefully mollify some of that angst that people feel. However, from a business perspective, I think we are expecting too much humanity out of a business, to be honest with you, because a business is built to reward its owners. And so the more we pass and say, here's what we want you to increase, the more they're going to figure out ways to pass on to their owners. So that means probably raising the rates that they're going to come back to us. I've done that. Others have done it. And it's with the intent of making sure that the owners of the business are satisfied. Then we take care of customers and then we take care of employees. So I think the delta between having contracting service in-house versus outsource is about $6 million. And if we're willing to actually pay to have our employees preeminent in terms of how they're treated and draw more talent, we may have to consider that as a viable option, even though it's considerably more expensive on the surface. The other way to get at the core problem, which is a lot of times contractors going to sort of clip the service level and try to get away with it. And I'm not saying they do it with ill intentions, they just have targets to meet, is that the way to control that is just ruthless, unforgiving oversight of their performance and delivery. So if an item like limbs is a safety issue and the administrator, the principal has called that in and it's logged in our system, how long to actual closeout? And we begin to track closeout percentages. And then the contractor and our organization know this is a strategically critical element. And things tend to improve with that type of organizational support. Thank you.
Okay, we need to get back to the budget briefing, please. Will you continue on?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So slide number 22 is operational expenditure increases. They include technology equipment, property, casualty, and athletic insurance increases this year. We just had an ACE board meeting last night. There is a proposed $321,000 increase in ACE. Just to expand on that a bit, the Beaufort Jasper ACE board made several years ago made a motion and approved a motion to follow Beaufort County School District salary schedules. As a result of that, over the course of the years, the increases in enrollment and increases in salaries have increased at ACE as well, following their schedule, providing locality supplements and so on. And so they're at the point where, although we've held the budget flat for 7 years, we're unable to continue to do that. So we're facing about $500,000 shortfall in revenues for this coming year at ACE, which will be passed along to the Beaufort and Jasper boards on a 2/3, 1/3 basis based on state law. So 2/3 of that $500,000 is what you see here today, $321,000. So we did have a discussion, and I briefed the ACE board on this matter in February because I knew it was coming. And then we discussed it again yesterday afternoon. And I indicated to the board that we have proposed that increase in Beaufort's budget. There was no indication of whether or not Jasper has included in theirs. So that will be, I think, on an agenda for our next finance committee meeting. So we'll take a deeper dive into that discussion then. But just want you all to know that that increase will be needed from an operational standpoint for ACE for the upcoming year. Utilities also, we're experiencing increases in costs there as well. Supplies, materials, those are primarily at the school level. There are some departmental supplies there as well. Other operational increases that we saw across the board. Student activities, those are often field trips. I think our schools are putting some emphasis on field trips, which if I failed to mention, well, I think I was going to mention it later, but Dr. Rodriguez, we had our second annual student advisory meeting here in this room just a few weeks ago and had representatives from every high school here. And some of the feedback that they mentioned, every group reported out, and they said they wanted more in real world experiences. They wanted more field trips, more things, hands-on activities, that sort of thing. So that was something that was important, and we saw there, and it's reflected in the schools' budgets here. So that's something that the schools are in tune with as well. Our international teachers program is growing, so we're finding more of our international teachers through this, through our, I think it's a Participate program. And then professional development, we do have some increases there, which then lends to the teacher quality component and priority of this budget. So overall, the operational increases we've summarized here are about $2.4 million. And just a next slide is some other decreases that we're experiencing. There was a small amount for advertising. I think we were more right-sizing the budgets there. We didn't expend all of the advertising in some of the categories that we had, so we were able to lower that budget slightly, but still managed to meet the needs that we currently have and project for next year. And then finally, Riverview. Riverview's charter school, our only district-sponsored charter school, has we are funded from the state, so we're sort of a flow-through entity. The state pays us, we pay Riverview. Not only do we pay in operations, but we also pay them about $200,000 in special revenue funds as well. We pay this one on a monthly basis, the other on a quarterly basis. So it's quite complex calculations, but this one is relatively simple based on state law. You will take the prior year's audited revenues. So right now we're paying them FY22 revenues, a formula based on divided by the district-wide weighted pupil units. And that number for this year is, or for last year is, it was around 32,000 weighted students. So weighted means that kindergarten, first grade through 12 regular students are a 1.0 weight. Students with disabilities are a 2.0 weight. And then there are some add-on weightings for career and technology students, vocational students, and multilingual students, high poverty students, and academically high achieving students. So this weighted student numbers that are provided from the State Department, that number actually went up. And so the per pupil dollar amount that's allocated to the charter school lowered. And so as a result of that, their reduction was actually more than this. It was actually about a $900,000 reduction. It was a $2 million increase the prior year. Typically, we have a couple $100,000 increases per year. Last year was a strange year, and the calculation determined that they were to receive an extra $2 million. This year, due to the formula, it has declined by $900,000 in total allocation to them. So it was a significant change. It is adjusted for the 135th day count. So there will be adjustments. So we built in not quite as large of we didn't build in a $900,000 reduction in our budget because we anticipate that we will that a reduction will lessen when we go back and adjust for the end of year final numbers to them. So and we're just anticipating a potential lessening of that reduction or increase back. So to offset some of that throughout the rest of the year. So it's complicated, but trying to simplify it as best I can, but it is a complicated little formula. But we are have notified and contacted immediately once I calculated the formula, been in touch with Mr. Bechtold. And then he has reached out to me requesting information about our teacher salary increases and what we plan to do and propose today. So I have a meeting on my calendar for 4:00 this afternoon to give him a call.
Ms. Boatright, you have a question?
Kind of. This is something you're not going to have the answer to right now, but when we brought up the international teachers and we're increasing, which I think is a great thing. But can we have a follow-up to the conversations we had last year, 18 months ago, in terms of the two organizations that we worked with, and if we're still working with those same organizations? Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Wisniewski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tanya, am I understanding correctly that Riverview Charter School is solely funded through state funding and that there are no local dollars that are utilized for that district-sponsored school?
I would say they are funded state funding. They are not funded. Well, they are. No, it's a combination of state funding and the local funding. So we take all of the revenues that are in our financial statements, with the exception of the indirect costs coming over from special revenue, because they're already allocated special revenue funds as well. So we take the total revenues in our financial statements, which include local tax millage, property taxes, state revenues, federal, and those are, which includes impact aid. And those total revenues are divided by the weighted pupil unit to get their allocation. So they receive millage as well, property tax revenues as well, a proportionate share.
Okay, but so it's, and this might be a totally sidebar conversation because you already mentioned it's complicated and education finance is complicated.
Yes.
So on the charter school side, it's my understanding that their per pupil federal, state, and local is less than what one of our other schools would be. Is that accurate?
I haven't calculated what effect that would be on one of our schools. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to pause for a moment and grab a bottle of water.
Wouldn't that be, if it's a state funded school, there's different salaries, but a district funded school, it would not be the same.
That's what I understand as well, that
Right.
Riverview is chartered under the district. Bridges is chartered under the state. And I don't believe that Bridges gets any local ad valorem tax support, but Riverview does.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out the differences in the funding because it is, they have their own governing board and like Tanya said, the funding is a little bit different. So I'm trying to wrap my brain around it, and it might be a total side conversation or another work session combo so that we can understand the funding that their students receive. I just want to make sure that we are funding students the same way across the entire system. And it was beginning to sound like they were only getting state, but it now seems that they are getting, local revenue as well. So.
Right. They are getting local. I'd have to run the calculation on our schools as well, taking salaries of the teachers. But there are indirect costs, really. There's overhead costs that wouldn't be calculated at the school level that are calculated, at Riverview or are included in their costs. So I've never thought about drawing that comparison. I know that Riverview receives a little over $9 million a year as our allocation from these funds. And so I'd have to sort of take a look at another school and see if I could draw some kind of comparison between the two.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm. Okay.
Is there another question? Okay, let's
Okay.
go on.
All right. Okay. So this is going to be the deeper dive into teacher salaries. The next 3 slides for us here. This is just a quick comparison. And also we can reference handout pages 7 and 8 from this, where we took the entire state minimum salary schedule at the state level. And thank you to the staff who compiled this. Puts us solidly, Beaufort County, at number 1, ranking in terms of starting teacher salary with $45,566 for the current school year. We're ranked 10th in enrollment, and these are based on the 45-day ADM, or the average daily membership count. So we actually have about a little under 22,000 students, but the ADM count is a little different. So you'll see Anderson 5 is right below us with about $466, and then Greenville, and then some of the other Andersons. And I think the Anderson school districts are in the middle of a consolidation or something like that. So that should look a little different next year. And so this chart that just draws a comparison and shows clearly that we are number 1, and our goal is to stay there. So the next slide is number 25, provides a kind of a layering on, kind of showing you how we're building the teacher salary. I'm going to start at the bottom, and that is the current total compensation for teachers right now is $48,066. That is for a first year teacher with a bachelor's degree. $45,566 is the base, which is in the salary schedule, and they have a $2,500 locality supplement currently. So we would take that base in the bottom green box and add on or proposed increase, which would total $3,000. But $2,000 of that would be through district dollars, and a legitimate across the board $2,000 increase. And the $1,000 would be moved from the 2,500 locality, therefore lowering it to 1,500. So the combination of the 2,000 and then that we would provide, and the 1,000 moving from locality, which provide a total $3,000 increase to the base teacher salary. Keep in mind that would lower, it would lower the $2,500 locality to a $1,500 locality. And so that would, so if you add the $45,566 plus the base of 3,000 plus the remaining, the new locality supplement of 1,500, we would put our starting teacher salaries solidly at the 50,000 mark, $50,066. This also aligns. The advantage of the locality change is it aligns our locality with all other district employees, classified, administrative employees, all receive a $1,500 locality currently. And so, but our teachers receive $2,500. This would align, and so that everyone would have a $1,500 locality. So that is an advantage of that. There would be no disparity between one group and another. So this also, there is also in handout number 9, page number 9, an average effect on the teacher's salary. So this is what Dr. Wisniewski was this is a little bit of a response, a partial response for that question, but not, I don't have percentages on here today. So the average effect on a teacher's salary that is bachelor's and their first year. So again, the 45,566 base plus the locality that is currently paid at 48,066 we would increase by 3,000 and then take 1,000 from the locality. So the whole compensation increase would be $2,000. $50,000 would be the total compensation package. And so that was one of the main goals of this budget, to make sure that teacher salaries stayed above that $50,000 mark. If you were looking at a bachelor's in 7, so every teacher on the salary scale would see a $2,000 increase, whether it's a bachelor's with 0 years, bachelor's with 7 years, a master's with 10 years. Each one would see the $2,000. Everyone would see the reduction of the locality down to the $1,500 mark, but it is now making it a permanent increase in the state in the base teacher salary. Again, it's increasing take-home pay, it's increasing retirement pay. So in addition to these, the step increase would also be provided. It's generally an average of 2% for every employee. So those moving from 0 years to 1 year would experience that step. Of course, someone just brand new coming in won't have a step increase. You have to work for the district for a certain number of days, which is the majority of the school year, in order to be eligible for that step. I think it's 152 days of the 180-day year is the rule from the State Department to be eligible for that step. So that is a breakdown of what those increases would look like for a teacher. And then finally, the slide number 26 kind of reiterates the same picture, and it just shows a 4-year sort of history for the last few years of what we've experienced. So the teacher salary just in 2021 was $36,928, and we're at the point where we're proposing $48,566, which is about a 37, almost an $11,000 increase over the course of the last 4 years in the base teacher salary, which is significant. We had a lot of attention. Beaufort had a lot of attention this past year when we raised teacher salaries. We were cited in a report from the Palmetto Teachers Association. I had people talking to me at conferences that they were looking at what did Beaufort do? I had people calling, asking how we did it. And so they were very interested in it. And I know we've seen some articles in the news recently about how others are trying to do that as well. Will this keep us at number 1? It's really uncertain at this time. We know that Charleston's, talking about doing things. Berkeley is talking about doing some things. So there's a lot of talk about teacher salaries right now.
Yeah, I colleagues, as superintendent colleagues as well, inquiring quite a bit, and we're all going through this process at the same time. So, but it is one of the things we see as important in attracting talent and also in maintaining talent. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. So future considerations, as we've been talking about, we want to stay at number 1 in the state. We want to continue, as Mr. Smith mentioned, to continue to advocate for state funding. That's on our list. And then also maintaining our AA1 credit rating to set us up, one, to eliminate the TAN at some point, and also to put us in a great position going forward for issuing bonds and debt in the future. So last main thing here, impact on, this is a budget with a 4.4 mil increase. So I have 2 scenarios, one with a $250,000 home. This would be at a 6% ratio. So this would be like a second homeowner, or a $400,000 home. So it would be a $66 increase on the secondary home for the taxpayer, and $106 on the $400,000 home. In addition to that, there would be increases on vehicles. So I estimated a $40,000 vehicle would have an estimated increase of another $10.50 on that as well. So these increases, again, would not be applicable to the primary homeowner on their primary home. So there would be zero impact on that, only on the secondary home, or it would be an impact on businesses and other motor vehicles that may be owned. So our recommendation at this time is to request support of the millage increase of 4.4 million mills to fund the compensation and operational needs of the district, totaling an expenditure amount of $320.4 million. We do hope to provide, we will be having a series, having a county finance committee meeting coming up on May 15th, Monday, May 15th. But do hope to certify the budget here with you all by May 16th, on May 16th. And so between now and then, we're going to be doing some things and seeking additional community input and continuing to update our estimates with updates from the state legislature. So every time they provide a new funding report, we'll be updating that. I'm told that there will be minor changes from any future projections coming from the Senate, based on a conversation Dr. Rodriguez and I had with Tom Davis, Senator Tom Davis last week, and the Senate Finance Committee staffer indicated that the only modifications that would be made were based on the latest 135-day enrollment numbers. So I don't see any major increases to be coming from the state revenues at this point. So public budget forums are going to be first thing on the agenda, and those are next Wednesday and Thursday. My folks have already contacted the schools to confirm the dates, the times, the locations. We typically are in the cafeterias. We're going to start at Bluffton High School at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, and Beaufort High School at 6 p.m. on Thursday. So those are opportunities for feedback from staff, community members, parents, board members, if you wish to attend. And then we will be using a similar format that we used with our students and asking the questions about what are we doing well and what are some opportunities for improvement and how we can prioritize those as part of the budget process. Again, May 16th, we hope to certify the budget, and then we start our county council meetings. We're going to be at Senate Finance Committee. I haven't determined a time on that yet. It should be televised. And that will be their first look at our budget. And then again, 3 readings between May 22nd and the end of June. So that concludes my presentation.
Okay, so now it's time for the board to give the administration some feedback on the overall view of this budget for this year. So, Mr. Smith, I see your hand is up first.
We've done a lot of talking in terms of this budget, in terms of teachers, and we have done some in terms of classified staff, and that we're leading the way in terms of pay, in terms of certified staff. I would like to follow that up with leading the way in terms of paying classified staff as well. I mean, if we're gonna do it, then let's just go ahead all out and do the, as the kids say, do the daggone thing. And I would like for us to really look forward to leading the way in us paying our certified staff members as well, is because it's 50-50. One can't do it without the other. And I'm really beginning to, the more we talk about this, and teachers are getting excited now that the the classified staff is definitely feeling some type of way. So I'm not sure how we do that, exactly what those steps are. So that's just something I want to put out there, and looking forward to in months to come after we get this done, to see what we begin to work on to actually solidify us being number one in both of those categories. Secondly, there are some positions in this district that I wonder in terms of the educational wealth / achievement gap that we could possibly, I'm gonna just say straight up, it's gonna be uncomfortable for some people. 86 some of these positions, which means get rid of and put them back in there and put some of these positions in classrooms and get more time with one-on-ones with kids. And in terms of working on the achievement gap outright. You know, so I am looking for. I was looking for a proposal in terms of if we would have to cut today, who would be cut? But I guess this is the beginning of the conversation. I guess, you know, I guess everyone probably want to wait to hear in terms of once we do the Beaufort High and the Battery Creek, how the community presents to us, because I know everybody will say if you don't have to cut, don't cut. But I just want to make sure that moving forward, that we are being very intentional where we're spending our dollars at, and that we are getting the bottom. We are moving numbers in the bottom line, that we are moving numbers, because if we're not getting these gaps closed, then our society is not being where we want to be, and industries aren't coming here. Better jobs are not going to come here. Why industry is going to come here when the workers are not here? So that takes the role of the school board, and that's why we have to be very calculated and very intentional upon how we spend our dollars too, and about how we're serving our community. And so I'm just looking for some of that as well, and I'll leave it there. I'll make it long. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Ms. Crosby and your team. Thank you very much. I'm looking at page 19. Other compensation increases. We spent $3,580,000. You know, you can see, I just don't see the need to do 3.5 when we know, as my colleague just stated, our classified employees need and deserve an increase in their pay. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon, thank you for the question. We did a classified study, but what you're seeing there as the 3.5 million increase is what we have to do as a result of that compensation study, right? We funded half of the increase that came out of that compensation study last year. We had put money aside in the budget because we knew there was going to be an increase, and we knew that we would fund half of it last year. And what you see here is the second half of that funding. And that was the way it was planned last year, was to do the compensation study, provide half of the increase during the second half of the year last year, and then provide the rest of the increase in this new budget. And so that 3.5 is not the cost of the compensation study. That 3.5 is the rest of the increase for the result of the compensation study. Does that make sense?
It does, but how much did our classified employees receive? You're saying, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know the numbers.
Yeah.
The total dollar amount of the increases in that study were $6.5 million between. So we implemented the study fully for employees. They received 100% of whatever they were scheduled to receive in January of this year. Yes. And so those raises will continue, those increased amounts will continue into the next school year. And so they won't receive another increase based on that study. They receive the full effect of each individual receive the full effect. So if I was going to receive $200 increase, I received a $200 increase at January of 2023. And I will continue to, that increase will stay in my salary through the remainder of next year with an additional 2% on top of that as proposed and a step increase. So that's what I would experience.
Thank you
So
very much.
100% of those dollars went to our staff.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes.
Dr. Wisniewski is next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to keep my comments brief. Oh, I'm getting a bit of feedback. Apologies. So when I was looking at slide number 8, which is the local revenue, and I compared to the state revenue and expenditures, so I was trying to get an idea of how much was going to come off of local revenue from the state mandates and also the raise that we're planning to do. It looked like if we did not increase anything, we kept everything status quo, that just due to increases in valuations and new properties and the growth in the area, that we were going to see an approximate gain of about $6.1 million. And then, we also had the negative approximate 1.8 or 1.9 million from the state mandate. So that's if we just stayed neutral. We would have about $4.3 million more coming in to us if we did not do any increases using, I think it was slide 8. And then so my concern began to be on the 6% taxpayers and the businesses, because as we know, because of Act 388, this is how we have to operate. This is the policy. This is the funding mechanism, right? So I wanted to know what the impact over time had been on someone who was a 6% taxpayer who very likely rents their property out to our teachers, our firefighters, our police officers.